A lot of people. Okay, so I got some message here. Okay. Now, what I'm going to talk about, as Dhananjay was mentioned, it is a hot topic, and what I'm going to talk, and actually, this is a work we started long time ago, and now has is becoming important. And the topic is, as you can see, is how geoscience can help in global climate change. So let's continue. I don't know how to go forward. It is not going forward. Wait a minute. Oh, there you go. Okay. So when we are talking about climate change, how geoscience can contribute to the climate change, one familiar topic is CO2 sequestration, or CCUS, the carbon capture, utilization, and storage. And as you can see, we try to capture carbon from all different sources and inject them into two places. One is the depleted oil and gas reservoirs, or also deep saline aquifers. And this is a very, very familiar application, as you know, the CO2 sequestration. And we know it involves remote monitoring of the injected fluids via seismic and other methods. And it is a familiar technology in the oil and gas industry. But I am not going to talk about this in this presentation, but I am going to talk about this. I mean, let's take a look at the marine streamer data. This is what I am showing here is a marine streamer data, and you can see all these reflections. And this is the water layer here on the top. And so this is my water bottom reflection. This is the first reflection coming in. It's a short gather. So these are all the subsurface events. However, if you just take the same data and increase the amplitude many folds, you can see the same subsurface events, and they are shown in blue here, and I just marked it again. But on top, you see something else. It is not a great, I am going to show you a better picture soon, but these are the events from the coming from the water column itself, from the water column. So what I am going to discuss today is not going to be solid earth seismology, but I'm going to talk about just concentrate on the water. So it is kind of a liquid seismology. That is what the topic is going to be. So this is a better picture. So this is just, and this is also called seismic oceanography, by the way. This is also another terminology. Liquid seismology is the term I used, but it is the actual terminology, seismic oceanography. And you can see on your left screen here, right here, you can see a Prestack seismic gather only for the water column, only within the water column. Everything below in the solid subsurface is muted. And typically what we do is we use a velocity, when it comes to velocity of water, we used a standard number, 1500 meter per second, right? So now if I use that 1500 meter per second and not in NMO correct, the correct this Prestack gather for normal move out, you can clearly see that there are events, these are overcorrected here. Maybe some of the events are properly corrected. And if you look carefully, there are events they are undercorrected. That means 1500 meter per second is not the right velocity. It really doesn't matter when you are talking about the subsurface solid earth part, but when you are dealing with just the water column, these velocity variations matter. Now, if you go ahead and pick the proper sound speed, you can see, so this is the Prestack gather on the left. This is the sound speed, the interval sound speed. By the way, I am using sound because we are in the liquid regime instead of velocity, but it is the same velocity, P wave velocity. And now I can see I have flattened the gathers. And what is the range of these sound speeds? It's not much. This is 1545 on the top, about 1540 here, but it is actually between about 1540 to 1545. And at the bottom, it's about 1485 meter per second. And they control these variations and all control these reflection amplitudes. But of course, we know density is also another controlling factor. But in the oceans, I just did some studies. The densities do not vary. They vary about between 1.03 to 1.07 gram per cubic centimeter. So for the time being, I am going to say that density variations are not significant. They do not significantly, but it can be significant, but we are going to ignore it. We are going to just assume a constant density of seawater to be 1.05 gram per centimeter cube. And we are going to say that all these variations in amplitude on the seismic reflection data are due to are caused by the velocity variation, the sound speed variations. So let's continue and look at why we want to at all bother about these ocean water reflections. That is the first thing we need to know. Now, assuming that density is not as significant, these reflections are controlled by some subtle variations of the water column sound speeds. And as I said, we have about 1545 or 1540 on the top end and 1485 at the bottom end. That is what we picked in the previous slide. And these sound speed variations are controlled by this, the water column temperature and salinity and also pressure variations. Those are the important factors that control these velocity variations. So if we have a good inversion method that will provide me the sound speed, in fact, Amit Padi, it is actually one of my former students. I don't know whether he is in the listening to the talk. He's in the part of the SPGNA. He wrote a paper and where he inverted the marine seismic data only for the water column for the sound speed. They did that. And he formulated a physics inversion scheme and estimated the temperature and salinity. And what does it tell us? The temperature and salinity? Well, these are the two major parameters. Those are used for climate prediction because that actually controls the atmosphere and hydrosphere interactions. So they are the controlling factors for climate predictions, like the weather patterns. What are the frequency, severity, and of the future hurricanes? So those of you who are in Houston, we have seen that very cold weather, cold spell came last winter, and these are all, and it is postulated those are due to the global climate change, and those things can be predicted. But the problem is the long-term predictions are difficult because the temperature and salinity data are usually sparse. They use some specific sensors called XBT1 sensor, which is called expendable bathythermograph, and CDT is conductivity depth temperature profile. So that measure the conductivity and temperature. From conductivity, they relate it to the salinity. But the problem is you cannot do it everywhere. And that is why the short-term weather prediction are good, but predicting a very long-term weather predictions are questionable because of the sparsity of the temperature and salinity measurements. But the seismic data, it's much denser. It is 25 to 50 meters lateral resolution, or it could be even less. There are some seismic data where the lateral resolution is much less. And therefore, if we can estimate the sound speed from the seismic and it is converted to the temperature and salinity, it can have a potential application for climate prediction. So this is the reason we want to look at and find out accurate velocity or sound speeds of the water columns. That's exactly the reason. So let me just go over very quickly the work what Amit did in his that is actually the one chapter of his PhD thesis. So he provided a methodology with two components. The component one is this. It is inverting water column seismic data for sound speed. That is the one he did. And also he devised a fluid physics inversion for sound speed to temperature and salinity mapping. And this is an overall view. So this is a Prestack. Again, the same Prestack data I showed you, but it is for the previous one was only up to about 1 second, but I'm actually showing it for a longer time window. And then you can do the inversion and it gives you a sound speed. Actually, I just copied this from his paper, Amit's paper. So he started, what it is showing that he started with 3 different initial models and they all converted to the true sound speeds measured by the expandable bathythermograph. So it is like a XBT measurement wherever you have, it's like a well log what you use. So you can have a temperature, from temperature you convert to the sound speed. And so it's like a true model and he found that it is matching very well. So he went ahead and inverted for an entire 2D seismic line. And this is the sound speed estimation over the 2D seismic line. So this is again the velocity. And you can see the range 1545 to 1485. And this is the velocity variation. And then he performed a fluid physics inversion method and converted to sound speed to the salinity on the bottom and temperature on the top. So there are ways. So right now, because we are not so much familiar with this component, sound speed to salinity and temperature mapping, what I am going to do in this presentation that I'm going to assume this is available. And I'm going to concentrate only on this, how to estimate sound speed in a way. What are the issues with the method of the Padi did? Of course, it's a very good work, but what he did was using the resources available that time. Now we have better resources, we have better technology. So what I'm going to concentrate on, how we can improve this work of Amit and get a bias-free estimation of sound speed from seismic data. The one issue is the compute and labor intense, and it is the way it has been done. It is a standard way. The inversions are done is, it is labor intense, number one. Let me just mute this. Just give me a second. Okay. Labor intense. And also, I'm going to get into that very quickly. And there could be some bias involved. And I'm going to get into that. And so purpose of this presentation, I'm going to concentrate on this. Is there a superior way? And if yes, we are going to how it could be a good method. That's what I'm going to for predicting climate change. That's exactly what I am going to concentrate on. And if you are, I just wanted to throw in the exact reference of Amit's paper. It was published in 2015 and it was published in Geophysical Journal. I just wanted to put that in for your reference. So let's move on and look at how the inversion was done in Padi and et al. And actually it is being shown in this slide here. On the left, what I am showing is stacked seismic data. So what they did is, what Amit did, he picked 5 separate locations. And as I can see, location 1, location 2, those are shown by arrows here. And one location was coincided with that XBT measurement. So we have true measurement of temperature and converted it to the sound speed. So he ran inversion for that location and found the parameters which can find the sound speed reasonably well. Following that, he ran inversion at some other locations which are shown here. Then, and this is also a standard technique, then he picked three major horizons, which are the horizon 1, horizon 2, and horizon 3. He took those sound speed estimated at these locations, these 5 locations, and interpolated a low pass filtered model. The low pass filtered each of the sound speeds and interpolated that, and that provided him the initial model for the entire seismic line. Using this as the initial sound speed model, he ran inversion, he assumed density to be constant, and he got the inverted sound speed. This is exactly how the method, and this is a standard. If you are familiar with running, say, simultaneous AVO inversion, that's exactly what you do. You pick horizons, you import well log, and this is like this part is like importing well logs. Then this is the seismic horizons, I interpolate, create the initial model, and run the inversion. That's exactly what, and this is a standard technique, and that is the technique available in those times. But the problem is, the primary issues are, first of all, it is labor intense, because if you are doing, because if you have well logs, it's fine, but here we don't have well logs. We have XBT, there was XBT at one point, but we had to get some reliable sound speed estimates at different points, and that is actually a lot of labor. Human labor is involved, and it is also compute intense. It is computationally, it's not easy. Each of those runs can take several hours of compute time, and finally it is prone to human errors and bias. I wanted to show that because if you look at the initial model, this is initial, and this is the inverted model. If you look at them and carefully, they are not much different from one another, except if you look at carefully in the inverted sound speed, there are some additional details. You can see some additional details which are not there in the initial model, but they both follow the original horizons. If you can see, they follow the original horizons. But if you look at the stack data, there are a lot of features. There are a lot of fine scale features, like these features going like this one going like that. Those are not apparent in the inverted model. Of course, we are not expect them to be the initial model, but we do expect them to in the inverted model, and those features are real. They are on the stack data, so they are due to subtle variations of the sound speeds, therefore subtle variations of the ocean water salinity and temperature. So so it is desirable that we get that. Of course, you can say that I can add some additional horizons besides these 3 horizons and force the inversion to find them. But we don't want that, because that is actually, it will add human bias. So it is what we want to do, that we are not going to, can we provide no horizon at all and still find those features? And that's exactly would be the ideal thing to do. So in this work, what I'm going to show is our new approach, which I call it the attribute guided seismic inversion. And I'm going to show you which I experimented with many attributes. I'm going to show you only 2 attributes that worked. So again, I have the inverted model. I started with Amit's inverted model and chose 9 locations, which are shown by arrows here. And these are the sound speeds at those 9 locations. So you have the sound speed, look at that. You have this, 1485. So those are the 9 different sound speeds as a function of time. And these, I picked 2 attributes. One is AINTT. I'm going to discuss what they are. And another one, I call it E sub INTT. And these attributes I computed directly from the stack data. Not even pre-stack, from the stack data. Now what I did is, I cross-plotted these attribute from all these points against the corresponding velocities, and that is shown here. And I cross-plotted these attributes from all these points against the velocities and find here. And you can see, and these red curves are the best fit polynomials. You can see these two attributes do predict, tend to predict the sound speed pretty well, especially this one, especially the EINTT can predict the sound speed. So what if we use the stats data, which you can easily do through velocity analysis and find out this relationship and use that as an initial model. And that's exactly what I'm going to show in the next few slides. But before that, I wanted to discuss what those attributes are. So AINTT is simply the integrated stacked amplitude. So at any samples t, absolute stack amplitude, you take the stack amplitude, take its absolute value and integrate it. And that is my AINTT. And EINTT is the other second attribute, which is the same thing, but integral of another attribute called E of t. And what is this? This is how I calculate E of t. I take the stack data, I Fourier transform, and I get its frequency domain. I go to the frequency domain and of that, and I interchange the real and imaginary components, and I calculate a new attribute called B of omega. So if in the frequency domain, if the component of A of omega is A plus IB, that's the corresponding component is B plus IA. That's exactly what I did. And I inverse transform, Fourier transform from B of omega and take its real part and I call it a time domain. I go back to time domain, I call it B of t, and I compute E of t as a square root of the squares of A of t and B of t. So it's kind of an envelope, but not really an envelope, because in envelope, you don't have to, after the Fourier transform of A omega, if it is A plus IA, you have to take the Hilbert transform, A plus IB, if A is the component of A, the Hilbert transform in the envelope that a B has to be the Hilbert transform. The Hilbert transform is pi by 2 phase shifted of the original. So B would be minus B plus IA. But we don't do that. We just use B plus IA. So that means in B of omega, if the theta is the phase of the original stack data, the phase of the B is pi by 2 minus theta. That's what I do. So this is a simple attribute. And what we can see here, that EINTT, as you can see, is a better predictor of sound speed than the AINTT. So I'm just going to concentrate on this attribute from now on. So one possible approach is use this relation I found on the right and predict the sound speed. But does it help? No, because how did we get this relation? We started with the inverted sound speed model itself. So we cannot do that. We have to do some other, we have to find this relation in other way, which is completely bias free. So this is the approach I am going to show. We just did, what I did is I did velocity analysis at sparse location. In this example, I did velocity analysis at every 50th CMP location, common midpoint location. Then I laterally interpolated those velocities, not guiding through any horizons, but just by sample basis. So if one velocity is here, one velocity, I just laterally interpolated each of samples like this and generate the stack data using this new velocity. I generate that, and then I do the EINT versus sound speed cross plot. And this is what we do. I generate So this is my after we doing velocity analysis and picking the interval sound speed at every 50th location. This is my velocity model I get after interpolation. Now I pick those same 9 points and make the EINTT. I calculate and pick those velocities, and you can see these velocities are constant, and then I generate this relationship. And this is actually the old relationship I found from the inverted model. And surprisingly, you can see that even though here I am using the inverted, my sound speeds from my velocity analysis and interpolation, the relationships are still about the same. This is really interesting. And actually, I'm not going to show, I'm actually concentrating on real seismic data. I also worked on synthetic data and I found the same thing. So this is what is this interesting thing. So we use these relationship. This is the completely derived from velocity analysis and interpolation, and then computing this attribute, new attribute, and cross plotting and deriving the relation. And I am also showing my previous analysis using the inverted model. And these are the prediction of sound speed. So if I use this, I get this predicted sound speed model. And if I use that, I use this predicted sound speed model. And you can see they are not very different from one another. But this is the one I obtained from velocity analysis and interpolation. So what if we use this as my initial model and run the inversion? So this is what we did. So we started with this initial model. This is my initial model. So as you can see, the initial model, what was used in Amit's work, was guided through the horizons. Here there is no horizon guided, but I got this inverted model. And now you compare all these features in the inverted sound speed with the stack data. They are consistent. I did not guide the inversion at all through those interpreted horizons, but still they found these features at all of them. So this is what I mean by a way to do a bias-free inversion. That is what it is. So again, I wanted to compare just with the Amit's work. So this is the newly inverted model. This is the stack seismic data. This is the inverted model, which was, by the way, it is a very good model. And actually it matched the local temperature and salinity variations very well. But you can see this newly inverted model is following all these features you see, all these features you see are following the corresponding features on the stack data, and I don't find them in the old model. But again, and of course, the inversion, this is a waveform based inversion. So I just to compare with the stack data, I showed it
Can I
entirely.
cut it for a second?
Yeah.
Shua says Devashish. The
Yeah.
inversion you're doing, is it a model based or you are doing a sparse spike?
No, it's a model, it's a pre-stack inversion. It's a pre-stack full waveform
Is it model
inversion.
based or sparse spike?
What?
It's a model based where you part up with you start with the initial model and part up the field and get an inversion result, or the sparse spike where you add the initial
No,
model.
it's a model-based. Smart Spike is post-stack inversion. We are not talking about post-stack. This is a pre-stack full waveform inversion.
It's a pre-stack full waveform inversion. Okay, okay,
Yes, both of them
okay,
are.
okay,
So you start
okay.
with this. So let's go back. You start with this initial sound speed model, and you run the pre-stack full waveform inversion, and this is the sound speed model you get. Am I clear? Hello?
হ্যাঁ দাদা আমি মিউট করে দিয়েছিলাম, ইউ আর অ্যাবসলিউটলি ক্লিয়ার।
Okay, okay, let's go forward. All right, so let's where were we? We are right here. So because it is a full waveform inversion, the inversion is actually always in depth. But I showed everything in time here because I wanted to compare with the stack data. But here I am actually showing the same model, but in depth domain. So it is a depth and both the inversion, that new inversion and what Amit Padi got in the previously published work, the reference of which I provided previously. Now, let's do some more comparison. So what I'm going to do, this is again the new inversion. Again, I am back in time domain, you can see, and the stack data and sound speed. What I did is we took this sound speed model from both Padi et al. Inversion and for this new inversion. So I have the model, I used a constant density. I generated pre-stack full waveform synthetic seismic data using each of them. I stacked them and I generated synthetic stacks. And this is the synthetic stack data using the new inverted model. This is the synthetic stack data using the Padi et al. And this is the real, so this is actually the same as this. This is the real stack data. And you can see how well we matched the, so Padi et al. Model is a good model. But what I am saying is because we use the horizons to guide the model, it is kind of a guided by the horizon guided model, but this is a bias-free model which is following the features of the stack data. But both of them are good models. But it is probably, this new inversion is probably give you some subtle variations and which will, probably we have not done it yet. If we compute the salinity and temperature, it is going to give you subtle salinity and temperature variations within the oceans, which are not provided by this model. But if you compare the synthetic data, predicted data using either of the models, they match the real stack data. And if you also compute the RMSE, which is the roots mean square error between the synthetic and real data for each of them, they are pretty good. And this is the RMSE in percent. So you can see the maximum RM is about less than 0.25% maximum error. So it is actually giving you very good inverted model. Both the inversion methods are giving you very good inversion results. But before I end my presentation, I want to look at a few more issues. One issue is the compute intense nature of inversion. Running the inversion, because it's a full waveform inversion and we are using genetic algorithm based inversion, you can use linearized, but it is compute intense. So recently there was a work, actually Ritam, I don't know whether he is listening to it, Ritam Biswas, he wrote two papers, one in the ACG expanded abstract and one is published in interpretation. He wrote a CNN-based convolutional neural net-based network-based approach for post-stack and pre-stack inversion. And they showed both supervised and physics-guided approach for training. And this is how we can use the same concept we can use in here. So we can, because we know that that attribute EINT is the predictor, we can, in the input layer, we can have this at some sparse locations. We can feed it to some deep learning architecture and it will output the model. We can, in the supervised training, we can match that the model output from the network with the true models, which we can run GA inversion at those locations and assume that those are my true models, and you drive you put a back propagation, the standard technique in neural network, and until you get a satisfactory match. For the physics guided training, on the other hand, in addition to those EINT attributes, you also have the pre-stack seismic gathers in tau p domain for those same locations, and you have the use this output model, and you calculate tau p domain synthetic seismograms, and you match them, and that drives via back propagation that will drive your network. And once you satisfy the match is satisfactory by either through either the supervised or unsupervised physics guided, you output results. And it would be interesting to see, suppose we are doing actually from this data set is from South China Sea. It would be really interesting that if we train the network from South China Sea data, for example, using this, and you get those oil, and can we do domain of adaptation? Go to Gulf of Mexico data, for example, and try to predict it and see if there, that would be really a big computational change in computational efficiency, and that is what should be done. Issue number two, which I completely ignored here, and I'm going to just show you, briefly describe, is how do you do the sound speed to temperature and salinity mapping. Actually, this is actually, if you read that paper, it is based on the equation of state. It provides actually equation of state, and it is called a UNESCO algorithm. It is actually the name, the algorithm is known as UNESCO algorithm. It provides the temperature as a function of sound speed, salinity, and pressure. So that's exactly what you do. It's a direct forward problem is temperature as a function of sound speed and pressure. So use a model-based iterative inversion, which we call it a fluid physics scheme, and to find simultaneously find the salinity and temperature from the measurement, but you need the pressure. And this pressure, by the way, is a function of density, depth, and also latitude, because there is acceleration of due to gravity is involved there. And with latitude, it changes. And those subtle changes are very important. And there is a paper actually, by the way, published that actually shows you how to find out the pressure. And that's exactly what Amit did. So but however, what I am going to emphasize here, that although we can use deep learning to map, to obtain sound speed, suppose you get an identical sound speed in one in, say, in the Gulf of Mexico, another one in North Sea, and suppose the sound speed is identical, but they're of different latitudes, the temperature and pressure will be different. Temperature and salinity are going to be different. So what I think is that it is difficult to use AI to map sound speed to temperature and salinity. So we probably have to just use the traditional fluid physics inversion. I'm not, I cannot say it for sure, but that's what I think. Another issue which we completely ignored, and I think everybody who works in this field completely ignores it, is more fundamental, is the process. We are using CMP domain data, right? We are doing CMP sorting. So how do we do CMP sorting? We take the source and receiver pairs from different shots, right? And which share the common midpoint. That's exactly the CMP sorting process is. That take the source receiver combinations, but when you do the data acquisition, what you do, these pairs are shot at different times, right? These are shot at different times. They are not shot simultaneously. This is fine. Those are fired at different times. That's fine for solids. But we are ignoring that in the water may move a little bit, and because water is free to move. So anyway, just wanted to put that issue so that we can discuss, but we are going to ignore. We have ignored it. Maybe the best practice is to don't do inversion in CMP domain, do in short domain, because short is just done it together. So you take each shot at a time instead of taking sorting them into CMP. That's probably one way to do it do it right. But I just wanted to leave it open. So just to conclude, these are the what I have shown, some attribute derived waveform inversion. It is not as labor and compute intense as the other works. It is also not subject to human generated errors because we did not do any horizon picking. And horizon picking does create errors because I will keep pick when I pick my horizon, I'll pick it in a way which could be different from somebody else picks the horizon. So we eliminated that bias. And of course, the application of deep learning can further improve the compute efficiency. And with that, I thank you. And I think it is time to take questions and discuss.